And today on the O+S Podcast, I have my good friend, Dev Walker. Dev is a filmmaker, and we get into a lot of areas of just story, film, the importance of having an ideal, but also talk about family and a lot of different things, religion and spirituality. I hope you enjoy this episode of the O+S Podcast. I need to get a new engineer.
You're doing great, man.
Dev, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. We were just talking about snowshoeing.
Snowshoeing, yeah.
Yeah, how I went for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was quite the experience. But I remember walking. We were like hiking up to this peak, and fresh snow had it's just layers and layers of snow. And I remember, like, before I put the shoe on, I stepped into the snow. It was like all the way up to my knee.
Yep.
But I remember just like what you said, it was just like the sound was like super dampened, and it was just like super peaceful. And a couple times through the hike, because there was 4 of us, we weren't talking. We were just, all you hear is the crunch of the snow.
Love it.
And the wind howling through all the different like trees and stuff like that. It was just absolutely gorgeous.
Some of my fondest memories, I grew up in Vancouver, but we would go up to like Kamloops.
Dude, I forgot you're Canadian.
Yeah.
That makes you like 2 points cooler.
I hide it well. I hide it really well.
Yeah, I don't hear an A at all.
No,
ever.
it's most of that accent has kind of gone away. I've been here for 16 years now, so
yeah,
a lot of that is kind of tapered off. But you talk to my dad, or my dad probably has it more than anyone else in our family still. And if I talk to anyone from back home, it comes back.
Does it come back out?
It comes back big time. Yeah, big time. But yeah, growing up in Vancouver, obviously, there's great snowboarding, skiing there. You got Whistler, an hour and a half away. You got Grouse Mountain, Seymour Mountain, 30 minutes away from the city.
Oh, wow.
So you would literally just look up at the mountain and see if there's snow on it, see if you wanted to go ride that day. So we did that all the time, but we'd also go up to like Kamloops sometimes in the winter, and they have there's a mountain called Sun Peaks. Man, I remember this one moment. My favorite moment of snowboarding and snow really in general was there was this mountain trail, and we were cutting through it, me and some friends, and it had just snowed, and it was the softest powder. So the powder is up to here. I'm a kid, so it's up to here, but you just still glide through it. It's the weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
You're gliding through powder. You're gliding through a wall of snow, and it's just like you said, it's quiet. It was at night times. It was dark. I just remember, like, even back then, I was like, this is not normal. Like,
right.
This is pretty cool. But I still took it for granted. I took that whole city for granted, man. Yeah. I think about Vancouver now, and it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I love
Vancouver. I went there. It was 2018. We were doing a trip up to Alaska, and so that was one of our stops was Vancouver. So we spent, I think, 2 or 3 nights there. Yeah. And what a cool city. Just cool people. We went to the big park that's like right outside the city.
Stanley Park.
Yeah. And it was awesome. I mean, I had heard a lot about Vancouver, but going there and actually experiencing it was pretty cool.
There's a reason why so much, there's so many film productions going on in Vancouver.
Is it? I didn't know there was a hotspot.
Ton. Yeah. It's a great city for that. I mean, there's a few reasons. One, it's cheaper up there. You get to kind of avoid some union stuff and taxes and all that. But you can shoot it for anything, because you have this big urban city, which you can shoot for New York or any other, Chicago. You can make it look like whatever you want to make it look like. But then you're also right next to lush, forests that it's Pacific Northwest. You can make it look like Portland or New Zealand or whatever you want to make it look like. So it's just really
versatile.
Very versatile. There's also suburbs there. There's the mountains, and you're on the ocean as well. So you can kind of shoot it for whatever you want. And there's also big studios there as well. But like Lionsgate, that's a bridge in Vancouver. And Lionsgate's a huge film company. They shoot everything there.
So they're based out of Vancouver.
I'm actually not sure if they're based out of Vancouver or not. I got to look into that, but I know that most of their productions, if you see it's a Lionsgate production, you look into it, they probably filmed there or somewhere around there.
A portion, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is filmed actually in the city I'm from is actually called Burnaby, which is right next to Vancouver. It's in the greater Vancouver area.
Right.
But I grew up in Burnaby, and a lot of stuff is filmed there. They filmed some of The Revenant there. There's stuff is shot there all the time. So when I was a kid, that's kind of how I got into film stuff, was actually acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're an actor? I didn't know that, dude.
Only when I was a kid.
So you're a child actor, even
child
worse.
actor. Yeah, I know. Somehow I got out of it, but I actually wanted to get out of it was the thing. at first it was fun. It was like, yeah, I want to do that. My parents were like, okay, let's get you an agent, and got an agent, and then started going on auditions, and I started actually landing gigs, which was pretty crazy because my brother he also decided to come out. My older brother decided to act as well, so we go to auditions together. Multiple times we would audition for brothers. Yeah, for whatever, a commercial or a film, and I would get it and he wouldn't get it.
Oh no!
He'd be like, he's literally my brother. So
yeah, but you don't play the brother good enough.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I started acting, and I was on some TV shows and stuff like that.
No way,
yeah,
dude.
Made for TV movies. And,
dude, I've known you for like 8 years. I didn't know you were an actor.
Yeah.
Hell
Well, I was like 4 years old, man. This is back in 92. 92 through like 96 or 7, and then it kind of got to a point where I was just like missing school all the time, and I just felt like I didn't want to be on set all the time. I would rather just live a normal life, so that was the reason I got out of it.
Do you have an IMDb page?
Yeah, but I don't manage it or anything. So
gotcha.
If you go on there, it's like, I think it's incorrect. There's a lot of things. There's some of the things that I've done on there, but it also says that I was on like the Wayans Brothers show, and
you weren't.
I definitely was not. I love that show.
I would claim that though.
Dude, that
I was like,
awesome.
yeah, it's on my IMDb.
Right? Yeah, I used to watch that show every morning, man. I love that show, but no, it's not on it.
Yeah, I went to Vancouver not knowing what to expect, going back to that, and I really did fall in love with that city. Yeah. Like it was, there's like really good food. It's like, it's almost empty in a sense, to where it's like the city itself, it doesn't feel like a New York or an LA, to where there's like just tons of cars everywhere. Yeah. It still felt very open. You felt safe, like just walking down the street, and kind of like almost all those stereotypes of Canadians. Like everybody was just very kind and said hello, and that kind of stuff.
It's so funny, that stereotype, because I really don't see it that way. Like, I guess it's because I grew up there. Yeah. So all of my encounters with bullies or whoever it was there. Right. So I got to see the bad, which is just the bad side of humanity in general, and kids being kids. But yeah, it's funny when I hear that now, that I don't, like, in my mind, I don't really equate Canadians with happy and polite and all those things that Americans do. But I think it's just because I grew up there, and I don't know. Yeah, it's strange, but I think it was a great place to grow up. I mean, I'm very proud to be Canadian, but I'm also proud to now live in the United States. I mean, this is, I think, the greatest country in the world, and I'd consider myself a patriot, of this country. And Canada's very much alike. But I feel really, really grateful to be here and to live here. And
are you a U.S. citizen officially?
No, I'm a green card holder.
Are you?
So okay. I'm a legal resident. Back when I was 17, go back a little further. My mom had lived in Minnesota when she was a kid with her family for a little while, so she had a green card. Okay. When I was 17, my parents decided, hey, we're moving to Florida. We're going to make a change.
That's big change.
Huge change. And dude, I was told of this the summer before my senior year of high school. So I had a girlfriend. Shit. I had all my friends for my whole life were there. So I did not want to go.
Of course not.
I'm like,
who wants to move their senior year of high school?
Yeah, it was brutal.
That sucks.
So anyways, but my mom was able to somehow get us all green cards, and which is a hard process. It's not easy. So she had started working on that before she even told us, but she was working on it for over a year, just trying to get the paperwork and all that stuff figured out. But yeah, we all got green cards, and it's one of those things you renew every 10 years. Okay. I'd like to get my citizenship though.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there like a limit to how long you can hold a green card?
I don't think so. I mean, you do have to renew it. So they go in 10 years. So you got to go back and do the whole process. And it's actually funny, last time that I renewed it, I was in a wheelchair. So my wife rolled me into the place to renew my green card. And I realized at that point that it was only like $200 or $300 more to get your citizenship. Yeah. But I was just in a weird place where, there's a test and stuff you got to take. And I knew nothing about it. So I was like, let's just wait. We'll figure this out another time. So I renewed it. And, I think when it's up again, I'll go and get my citizenship.
Why were you in a wheelchair?
Well, we had talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, but that was from when, after Irma, I was doing some hurricane relief.
I forgot that.
Yeah, up in Fort Myers, and got crushed by a tree. Yeah. Broke my pelvis, broke a few ribs, and ended up having to have surgery to put it all back together. And that surgery left me with external fixator, which comes out of your skin and it pretty much holds you together under pressure. Which
so you had these like rods coming out of
it's really like 2 rods in a cross section, and it's under pressure, so it's really holding everything back in place. And I had that on for, I think it was 2 or 3 months that I actually had the fixator in, but I know I was considered double non-weight bearing for 3 of those months, so I couldn't even put pressure on my legs, so I definitely couldn't stand up, couldn't walk or anything like that. So I was just at home, and I had like a trapeze above my bed so that I could lift myself up into a wheelchair, and that's kind of how I got around. So yeah, it was gnarly, but that's when during that time my green card ran out. I'm like, all right,
perfect. So you got to go take a test, and you're like got rods sticking out of your body.
It's ridiculous. I got right to the front of the line though. They felt sorry for me.
Yeah.
They saw me. Took
some
one
benefits.
Look at me.
Did you go to Disneyland at least?
No, we actually just went to Disney World though this past weekend.
No
which
way.
is cool. Funny you say that. Yeah.
First time or
first time for my son. So that was cool.
But you've been before.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Night of Joy.
We didn't do Night of Joy, but we were there. We were there as long as our son would allow us to be there.
Yeah. How long did he hold out?
Well, he actually held out pretty well. He just didn't nap for the 3 days that we're there, like during the day, because normally around 11:30 noon he's taking a nap.
Right.
But he did well, man. He just pushed through. There's a lot. Like he's just a really curious kid, like he's stoked to be around things and be around people. He's really curious. He just loves asking, what's that? What's that? What's that? So Disney's perfect for that. So I don't even think you could see he was tired, but he was loving it. So
did you guys go to all the parks or?
Yeah, we did Magic Kingdom day 1, and then we did Epcot, and we did Animal Kingdom on the 3rd day. The grandparents came up with us too. So
you had some reinforcements then.
Definitely. Yeah. We were weary of doing that without them. Yeah. Because it's a lot, you're a dad. It's a lot. But it's fun, man. Yeah. It was good. It's been like, I think close to 4 years since Kate and I had like an actual vacation together. Yeah. So it was due time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys had a good time. That's awesome. Did you stay like on property or did you?
Yeah, we actually stayed at the Grand Floridian.
No way, dude.
Yeah, man.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, we had just, it'd been like 4 years. We're like, all right, we're going to do this. Let's do it right.
That's one of my dreams. It's like a bucket list hotel for me.
It's really cool, man.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I mean, Disney does everything well.
Sure.
The whole experience is really, really special. And it was great, man. Got some rest. Just good.
That's good, man.
Yeah. Well, the dad's version of rest,
sure.
which is running around all day, making sure your child doesn't die, and then just sleeping really deeply.
That's
at night.
one thing they don't tell you, right? Like your number one job as a parent with those first couple of years is like just make sure your kid doesn't die.
That's it.
That's like your number one role.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then you realize how resilient they are and how tough they are, and my boy just face slammed yesterday, and cut open his lip, and it's like that's going to be healed in 30 minutes. They just heal so quickly, and so yeah.
See, I have girls, so they just don't. They're just not as. I've got a buddy of mine. His name's Evan. His oldest son broke his leg. Not on like it wasn't his fault. He was just playing at the beach. Some kid on a one wheel ran into him and snapped his leg in half, like both bones and everything. And so he had to go through rehab and all this thing. I mean, cast on and everything. So he had just gotten the cast off like a month ago. And his wife and 2 kids were home. And this oldest son that just got his cast off tried to do a backflip and broke his collarbone.
Oh, man.
I'm just we're stupid as kids. Like, boys are just so rough.
Yeah, man.
We just don't think. Like,
I get it though, man. Yeah. As soon as I was back on my feet after the accident, Kate and I were going to go take a little vacation in a cabin up in I think we're up in Georgia somewhere, northern Georgia. And
like the Blue Ridge area?
Blue Ridge area. Yeah. And before we left, it was, I literally had started walking like 2 days before this. So I was still a little bit, my muscles were still atrophied and I was still a little bit wobbly. Mm-hmm. But I had gotten, someone had gotten me a penny board for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
And I hadn't ridden it yet because I was down, know. So I'm like, I'm going to ride this thing. So I walk out onto my driveway. I get it. It had just rained. So that should have been my number one thing. Sure. Like, hey, maybe not now, know. And I just, as soon as I got on, I just slipped right off and I landed on my arm, which re-broke my ribs. So I re-broke 2 ribs that I had just healed. And dude, I was so embarrassed. I walked back in the house. I'm like, there's no way I can tell I can tell her that I just did this. There's no way. So I tried to hide it, tried to just bear the pain. And I walk in there and I'm acting weird, obviously. And she's like, what happened? I'm like, so I got on the penny board and we were supposed to go on the trip like the next day. And we did go on that trip. And I was just having fun with those broken ribs on that trip. Man.
Sure. I can imagine. Dude,
Brutal.
that sucks.
Yes. And you know what's crazy with modern technology? There's no real good way to heal broken ribs.
No, or same with like a collarbone. Like
Right.
you can't cast it.
No.
So it's like either surgery or
Right. Which you're not going to get on.
No, just let it heal back all
Yeah,
weird.
man. Yeah.
So I know like before the last time you were on, you weren't a dad yet.
No.
So how has that been, like that transition into fatherhood?
Duh, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's everything that everyone said it would be and everything that no one said it would be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's equally amazing and challenging, you know. I think for me, it's been the biggest thing that I've learned, I think, about myself is how selfish I was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like when you get married, you have to lose a little bit of that selfishness, right? You gotta, now you're a team.
Yeah.
So you lose a little bit of it,
Sure.
but you're still pretty selfish.
Yeah.
you
You're
know?
still like,
You still have your time. You
Yep.
have your schedule. You can do what you want.
Right.
So for me, it was really trying to work through that. Like, hey, I got some selfishness I got to get rid of here. And you're forced to learn pretty quickly when you're not sleeping and all those things. But it's, you know, to me, it's a refining process. You know.
Yeah. I the transition into fatherhood was a little bit more difficult, but like then as you get connected with that kid, it's like you don't even want to be selfish. Like it's like without a question, without a doubt, like this kid's number one.
Well, your mission changes in life.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it gives you, for me anyways, can't speak for everybody, but it gave me a very clear purpose in life. You know, looking at him and watching him grow up, loving him more than I've ever loved anything or ever knew I could love anything. My mission is clear. You know, it's to be a good father and a good husband and to raise him right and to raise him to be a good man, you know, and to respect others, to love others, to, you know, to do the right thing. And, you know, I just think, I think something that I'm trying to do, even right now when he doesn't quite understand it, is that every day tell him that I love him and I'm proud of him. And my pride isn't based on his actions. Obviously, you know, he's 1.5 years old. But I'm, you know, I think as his father, he needs to know that I'm proud of him, you know? So as far as I'm concerned, that's something that I'm going to do every single day, is just try to instill that in him. Like, you are, you know, you're worthy. You are worthy of being your own man, and you're going to do great things. Even if you don't do great things, your parents are proud of you. We love you, you know, and that's not conditional.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, every kid is different. Every personality, you know, I've got 2 girls and both of them are extremely, I mean, they couldn't be more opposite.
Right. 7 and 8.
8 and 7 and 8. Yeah. Leighton's about to turn 9 in a month or 2. But
That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
I'm having a hard time with it, man. You know, like it feels like yesterday that they were your son's age. Like that is not a lie. Like they're 3rd and 2nd grade. We've got, you know, they've got older cousins that are just a little older than they are. And I'm just like, they're going through middle school, you know, and all that shit that comes with going through middle school. And I'm just like, you know, at first I thought like, oh yeah, middle school, high school, that's so far away. And now I'm just like, Leighton's like 2 more grades away from being in a middle school.
Man, that's wild.
It's tough. That's the thing too. It's like you get worn, like you know, it goes by quick, but man, you blink. I had a moment the other day. I was up early, getting ready for the gym. So it was like 5 and, you know, I knew like Leighton's birthday. I just was starting to think about Leighton. And I'm like, she has her birthday's in November. She's going to turn 9. And I was like, oh, shit, her childhood's halfway over. Like in 9, like we're at 50%, like in 9 years, she'll be 18. And I started crying, dude. I'm just like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, you know, she's only going to be a kid for so much longer. You know, then you have the teenage years and they start to separate from you a little bit more and more. So I know I've had this conversation with you before, but like soak these years in, man. I know they're tough.
Yeah.
But man, it goes by quick.
Right.
And then they've got all their activities and their life becomes so much busier, and then they have friends, and then I'm not ready for boyfriends yet, but like that day will come as well.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It'll sneak up on you too, right?
Yeah. My head, this whole experience it's snuck up on me. I feel like every step of the way.
How do you feel like being a father has changed you or refined you as a man?
I mean, it's similar to your experience in the sense that like, very much so. I have an older sister, but she's 12 years older than I am. So I was basically raised as an only child. She moved out of the house when I was 7. She was 18. So there was, it was basically the Ricardo show in my household. Like I was just an only child. So, growing up, not having to share basically anything with any other sibling, there's a fair amount of selfishness, and basically you get your way all the time.
Right.
And so the adjustment of things not always going the way I envisioned them, like kids will throw a wrench in your plans real quick.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was like that transition from wanting to give up the number one spot, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm gladly giving up myself being the highest priority in my life, and like understanding like it was my first step into realizing like and having that like epiphany of, without a doubt, without hesitation, I would die for these girls.
Yeah.
Like somebody has a gun out, I would step in front of them without a hesitation, no matter what.
Absolutely.
And that was like the first time, because like you have that like with your wife, and I'm sure you can you say like I would die for her, and I like to think like I would absolutely die for my wife, but without hesitation, without question, for the kids. Like, and then the biggest thing for me too is just that transition into like the feeling of being the protector of the family.
Right.
And that's one of the things that drives me to expand like my knowledge, and just even like self-defense, all those different things. Like I am responsible now.
Yeah, it's a duty.
Yeah. Like as the man, I want to protect my family and take care of them, never do anything to put their lives or their well-being in jeopardy. So that's definitely been, because like, before is like, I don't care how I live. I could live out of my car and not really care too much about it. But like for them, I want to provide a life. My parents worked really hard, but I want to provide a life even of more abundance for them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's definitely changed for sure.
Yeah.
Those priorities kind of shift and all that.
Yeah. That duty of protecting your family, that really is, to me, it's an honor. I mean, I feel like,
absolutely.
Hey, this is my calling here. Yeah. This is what I signed up for. But two, I mean, how lucky am I that I have this family to protect and to be there for, I will say though, like with the whole protecting, I already was dealing with some OCD, I have some OCD tendencies. They skyrocketed as soon as he was born. Like just because most of it is like door locking, so I have this weird tradition every night of going around all the doors and like checking them, and I have my little rituals. Yeah, dude, it's like you got to do the 5-time thing and then snap. Like I take it a little too far.
No,
but it feels out of my control. But
Sure.
I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. That just like now it's got to pull the door 10 times, and snap twice. It's weird stuff like that. But it's all in the name of just like, I want to make sure this home is safe.
Yeah.
I'm about to check out for 8 hours and go to sleep. My watch has ended. Like I want to make sure that this house is fortified, and that we're going to be okay. And so far so good. But
anything else like in your personality that you feel like has changed?
Yeah, I think, man, I just think I'm a lot softer now. I mean, even just, and this is kind of a trope that I had always heard, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But it's so true. Like I can watch a sappy commercial, and if there's a child and a father or a mother, like I'm crying or I'm getting close to it.
Dude,
I think everything just got
100%. I see that. I will cry at the drop of a bucket now.
Yep.
And that was never the case. We watched the show 1883. Have you seen that?
No.
So it's the prequel to Yellowstone.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it takes place obviously in 1883, and this family is like traveling across, traveling on the Oregon Trail, and it was the saddest freaking show. It was beautifully done. The acting was amazing. It stars Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're phenomenal actors. But I don't want to spoil like the end of the show or anything. But there's a situation with a father and a daughter, and my wife and I are sitting there watching this, and I'm just like, this situation happens, and I'm just like, kind of like got the lump in my throat, and my knee jerk whenever anything is sad is to joke, to pull
deflate it
deflate it. And I look over, and my wife's got the covers over her head, and all of a sudden I just hear the and she just starts sobbing. Right. I mean, like something really, really sad just happened to her. Like she lost her grandparent. Right. She was crying that hard. So I think it's true for her as well. Like you become more emotional, more sappy. But then it's like I kept putting myself in that father's shoes, and just like that unbelievable situation to where I can't even like fathom the emotion of it. Yeah. So for sure, 100%, I've become more sappy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, isn't it funny how film will do that to you as well? Because I mean, they've done studies that show that your empathy centers in your brain. There's really no difference between actually experiencing it and watching a protagonist in a fictional drama experiencing it.
Really?
The same parts of your brain light up, not to the same degree, but they're still active. So when you're watching that, you are empathizing with that protagonist. That's why stories are powerful. It's because we tell stories to be able to, one, give information, but also help people empathize with other people in other scenarios, just in case you end up in that scenario. It's a lot of it is as a survival tool, but it's so powerful how that happens. And I think even becoming a father and dealing with all that, I've seen even more so now how powerful that medium is, how powerful film, commercials, feature films, how powerful that is, because you're tapping into someone's brain on a way that's probably more powerful than you think. For us, it happens to be as fathers,
right?
But for somebody else, it might be, someone who's been abused, and now you're that's a film about abuse, or these things tap into people's brains a lot more powerfully than we maybe give them credit for.
Right.
It's easy to look at a movie and just say, well, that's fiction, that's fake, that's not real. But as far as your brain is concerned, it kind of is real. It's real to you, at least in that moment. You know? So it really sparks that sense of empathy in you.
Well, you think, storytelling has been, from the beginning of man, like we've just been telling stories. That's how we communicate, whether they're real or fake.
Right.
You even think back to like, these old biblical writers that were just telling these oral stories, and, all of a sudden they get written down, and, the power of story can change things, for a lot of people. And I find myself in the, what's the word? The definition of compassion is putting yourself in the other person's shoes and walking when you place yourself in that person's story, whatever the story is, you see life from a different perspective, and you realize, like, what would I do if I had lost my daughter? What would I do if I was Maverick and I was having to steal a Russian pilot's plane? Like, I definitely wouldn't be able to. But you place yourself in the characters' shoes.
Totally, and it all has value. Like the way I see it, even like you said, Maverick and Top Gun.
Did you see that movie?
I did. Yeah.
Badass, wasn't it?
I love that they leaned into the 80s aesthetic.
Oh my
even
gosh,
the music and everything.
yes.
They just went. They went for it. Which I think is great.
It was campy. It just felt right.
Yeah, all the dialogue, everything was just like, okay, I'm watching a movie in the 80s. And I'm loving it. But even that too. It's like, it's very fantastical, and there's things that are, the truth is bent, and you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Yeah. But even so, even if you're not a fighter jet pilot, and all these things, like, you still put yourself in their shoes, and you at least question, what would I do in that moment? Would I rise to the occasion, or would I be scared? Would I be fearful? So it at least makes you reflect on yourself. And I think we're always doing that when we're watching films.
100%. Yeah.
We're reflecting, you're putting yourselves in that protagonist's shoes and you're reflecting on them. What would I do? Like, do I have what it takes? Things like that. I watch Band of Brothers at least once a year.
I haven't seen that.
It's great.
That's
HBO miniseries.
World War II?
Yep, World War II. And I watch that at least once a year because of that. I've never served in the military. I hope that I'll never have to, but if that call comes, obviously, I would, but it's not even about that. It's about putting yourselves in their shoes and seeing obviously what they went through to fight for our freedom, but also you can't help but question yourself. What would I do?
Yeah.
Would I rise to the occasion? And I think even in that, there's a refinery going on that just mentally it makes you a little bit better, or at least helps you understand yourself more by looking at what these brave men and women did, So I think there's so much value in it. There's so much value in stories and in watching these films, So I think that's why it's a huge reason why I'm a storyteller, if you want to call me that, or a filmmaker,
Well, you are, yeah, absolutely.
I see that, and I know how much I've been affected by films. I really do. I think it's my favorite creative medium because it includes all of the creative mediums. It's music, it's writing, dialogue, it's cinematography, it's sound design. It's all the things that help make an experience for somebody packed into one thing, packed into one viewing experience, And if I look back on it too, I think the common thread too, because I started in music and music got me into recording studio, audio engineering. Then that got me into live production, and then live production got me into filmmaking. But the common thread with all of those things is creating an experience. Right. That's the common thread. If you're in a band, you're writing songs and you're performing those songs, you're trying to create and evoke certain emotions, through this experience. I think it's the same for me with filmmaking, but I feel like it's that on steroids.
Yeah, you're adding the visual element. Sure, music videos exist obviously, but those are films. Like, you tell a story. I've written songs. Like, you're trying to tell a story through this song, but that film just takes that to the next level, like you said.
Totally.
Yeah.
And music is like pure emotion. I feel like music is just tapping into something that is so deep down inside of people and inside of everyone. Right. It's like music is pure emotion, and I think film is that as well, because it includes music and it includes these stories of people doing things that you can connect with, So I think it's just, not to say that one is better than the other, right? But I think
it's just different.
They're different, but they're all powerful tools.
Right.
And I think in the end, what they all do is they evoke empathy and they create this experience for you, that hopefully changes you or gives you another perspective or something like that.
What's your favorite style of film to create? I know you've gotten a good experience in a lot of different areas and aspects of film. What has been that one? Sure.
To be honest, I think that one is something I probably haven't even done yet. You know? But I think what I gravitate towards, my favorite films and the things that if I'm writing or if I'm directing in a certain way, I'm trying to evoke naturalistic performances. I'm trying to make it feel as authentic as possible. There's place for, your action films and your Marvel films and things like that.
There's like guilty pleasures.
Of course.
They're just straight entertainment.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a place for those things. I tend to gravitate more towards really human stories, So we do right now, we're doing a lot of docu-style pieces. So we're doing a lot of documentary.
Yeah.
And that's as real as it gets.
100%,
that's real life.
And you're telling a story.
We're telling a story, and it has its own set of challenges. But I think as we get more into narrative and writing, fictional short films or feature films, I think I'm always looking, and Morgan would be the same, my business partner, who we work together on everything. We're both after just authenticity. Yeah. Like, we want to find those human moments, and that translates to even the client work that we do as well. If we're doing commercial work, I feel like these days they're kind of allergic to ads.
Yeah, 100%.
We just see them so much. There's a reason why people don't watch like broadcast TV anymore.
Yeah.
You know, one, because there are better platforms,
Sure.
you know, where you can watch things and it doesn't have to be scheduled, but also the commercials, man. Like,
Right. Your show's not interrupted four times.
You're completely ruining the flow of
the story.
The story. I mean, you just are, you know. And so to me, I feel like they're just inundated with these commercials. And now moving online with social media too, like just the quick, like high key ads that are just about, here's the product, that's it, you know. I think people are just a little turned off by it. Not everybody, but I think a lot are. And, you know, which I think is why what you've been doing has always been great, because you're telling stories, right? What you're doing is you're doing branded content. This is storytelling. This is telling the story of a real athlete or a real person, which people will connect with, right? Like people connect with people. They don't connect with a brand.
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know?
it's just the story itself, right? Like
the story's powerful.
Well, and you have like, there's a reason why there's common arcs, like character arcs. Like you connect with the protagonist, and you know, you want to be, like you were saying, like what would I do in that protagonist scenario?
The hero's journey, man.
Exactly.
You know, it's a real thing, and it's as old as time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, even in that, like doing client projects, commercials, we're always trying to just push the envelope a little bit into what is more human. What do real people do? Like, what is the actual real essence of this story? And so from pre-production to post-production, you know, we're always trying to find those things. We're trying to find those, what makes you human? Like, what is your story? Like, what is really authentically you? And we're not going for perfection, because perfection is not human. We are not perfect people. Nobody is. There's just not a perfect person on this planet. So we try to just lean into that authentic human storytelling, because, you know, perfection is just, it's unattainable. It's not real. And people just see it. And I feel like, at least myself, I get turned off by that. It's like, okay, well, that's not real. That's, you know, I'll never be that. I'll never, whatever it is, you know. I think if you tell someone's real story, even if they're a spectacular athlete or, you know, doing amazing things, there's still things about them that you can connect with.
Sure.
Because we are all alike, you know, in certain ways. So I feel like leaning into that, you know, leaning into truth and authenticity is really important for us and myself personally. So that was a long way of answering your question, but I think
no, it was beautifully said though.
So, and more of that in the future, hopefully, you know. I think as we start to move into, like I said, doing more narrative work, more writing and fictional work, that's kind of the thing I want to hang on to. You know, I want to find the essence of whatever that character is, you know. And I mean, you just think about it. People are polarizing, right? I mean, there's a duality. People are not good and not evil. They're both. And it depends on the day, you know, it depends on the minute, depends on the decisions they're making. There's a reason why, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that commercials need to have an anti-hero or anything, but there's a reason why shows like The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and these shows have resonated with people.
Right.
It's because they spent so long being shown this like golden boy of a protagonist, or golden girl as a protagonist that's perfect and, you know, good at everything they do, you know, and they haven't really seen the underbelly that we all have. Right. You know, maybe we're not making meth, but you know, we all have something.
But yeah, you're conflicted. I mean, going back to your Breaking Bad, you know, like he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a very, you know, at the beginning of the story, he's a very good guy, right? And then he slowly opens himself into this dark world.
Yep.
And he knows, like, I have cancer. I need to pay my cancer bills, and this is a way that I can do that. It's illegal, and people die from the thing that I'm making. But at a certain point, he just like opens that door. Yeah. And he kind of slides on over to the dark side.
And it's brilliantly done, right?
Oh, I mean, my gosh.
And that show
so
specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that makes a good character and a good story is you have to empathize with them, you know? So if it is, they can't be purely bad, they can't be purely good, you know? That we're all both.
Right.
You know, and we change, like I said, day to day. But there's some things in storytelling and the writing of it that you need to do to establish that person as someone you connect with, you know? So in that case, yes, he's the science teacher, and there's things about him that we can relate with. You know, he's a family man. He's just trying to do this for his family.
Right.
So right off the bat, you're connected. You know, you're in. You want to see him do well.
Yeah.
Despite what he might do to get there, you know, you're fighting for him, you know? another
And
side,
you have to write in just enough redeeming like moments for him to where it's like it keeps him good. Which I'm trying to remember how the show ends because it's been so long.
It's been a while since I've seen it too.
But I feel like from what I remember, he just leaned one side. But he does redeem himself at the end. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember. I had to stop watching that show, man. I realized I was watching it late at night, like right before I went to bed, and I just started getting more and more depressed. I'm like, what's going on here? Why am I so sad all the time? Isn't that amazing though?
Oh, man.
How like shows that you're watching can affect you. Like 1883, most recent. I'm just like, this is sad. I'm like sad going to bed. I wanted that show to be over because I'm like I'm interested enough in the story to like keep going, but God, I was ready for it to be over.
But you were invested. You're like, I got to see this through.
Yeah. But we always like balance with like now we're watching Love Island, which that's I would love to say that's mainly my wife, but that's me. I love
it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah. So you watched it?
I've watched it before.
Do you watch the UK version?
Yeah, I think that's the only one I've seen.
Yeah, that's the only one to watch.
That came out like I feel like we watched that like a year ago. Maybe the first season or something.
Yeah, so they're on season 8 now, and it's like it's 65 episodes. They're hour long, so it's like, but it's like 100% a guilty pleasure.
Oh, for sure.
But it is one of the best reality TV shows. Like one of those like dating. It's like a mixture between Big Brother and Bachelor.
Right.
The
thing I love about those shows too, like that's the perfect time to have hilarious conversations with your wife or with who you're watching with. Like it's just we just have a constant commentary going on the whole time, and that's part of the fun. It's like you're watching these people make crazy choices and these like really but it's like
that's a really good point. I didn't think of that.
It's it's like this commentary that we have going is what I love, and it gives us an opportunity. I think a lot of reality shows do that. I think that's why a lot of couples watch reality shows together, is because you're always talking to you're always talking to the person next to you and saying like, oh, that guy sucks or whatever, But that's the fun part about it,
Well,
that's
and Laura's a therapist, so here's she's seeing all these like toxic traits within some of these relationships, and she's just like,
just breaking it down.
She's like, I want to reach through the TV and help this person because they're just making so many common mistakes. And, but that's a really good point. I haven't thought about that. It is like almost like a bonding experience to where you're bantering back and forth about what's going on in the show, and it's light enough to where it's like, do you have to pay attention to every single detail, every single conversation?
Exactly.
No. So it's just easy.
Very easy.
So we find ourselves like having to balance like trash TV. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. It's trash TV, but it's so entertaining.
Yeah, it really is, man.
Like how you said with like Band of Brothers, you do Band of Brothers once a year. I do a Marvel run. So I watch in timeline order once a year all the Marvel movies.
Wow.
And it's taking me longer and longer because they keep releasing like 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
But there's something fascinating about the Marvel universe for me.
Yep.
I know they're not, the stories are not like, the plots are not like this super award-winning, like, it is very basic.
Yeah.
But there's something about those stories and how they've interweaved them and some of the characters. I love Iron Man. Mm-hmm. I think I saw a podcast with Robert Downey Jr. when he was on Rogan a few years ago, and I'm just like, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark.
Right.
He's not playing a character.
It's perfect casting.
It was perfect casting, and you see yourself like you're like, man, I want to be as cool as Tony Stark.
Sure.
Man. Here's this rich, philanthropic, superhero. Yep. He's just super cool. Like,
it's funny.
He's just hilarious. Just has like a quip at every moment. Just knows the right thing to say when he's faced with the antagonist, when he's facing them down. But I love Captain America.
Yeah.
When we were talking about stories earlier, like he is the ideal, like for me at least.
Right.
He's almost an unreachable or unattainable character because he's outside of the physical strength, obviously, but like his character is purely good.
Right.
I mean, in all of the stories that he's in all those movies, he never wavers from good.
Yeah.
Whether he has to bend the law or fight the rest of the superheroes or whatever it may be, he's always purely good. Right. And I think that was like something that I'm like, that's really admirable.
Right.
That despite being the only one that thinks that they should do this, like
Right.
he will always be the one that's like that guiding light.
Yep.
And again, perfectly casted with Chris Evans.
And that works really well with superheroes. I think the superhero genre, that's something that people are looking for, right? They're looking for what is the altruistic human. What's the best way of being brave and being intelligent and taking care of people and saving people's lives. Like it's like, yeah, he's the poster boy, right?
Right.
Captain America or Iron Man or any of these other superheroes. I think there's something really deep in that, and a lot of it too plays into the archetypes.
Yeah.
And these are story figures that go back, like I said, as the beginning of time. These stories have emerged. They're throughout Shakespeare and the Bible and anything you read. You're gonna see these common, what we would call tropes at this point. They're not, though. These are these deep stories of somebody overcoming something. Right. I mean, that's what makes a story, right? You have a character who wants something, but there's an obstruction. There's something that stops them from getting it. So they're faced to make a decision, a hard decision, and they push through that to eventually, hopefully, get what they wanted. But they get what they wanted, but they're not changed.
Yeah.
Right. They end up changed. They've learned something through the process. And between those two things, there's a lot of ups and downs and decisions to make, and people fail here or whatever. But that really, it's a powerful story that resonates with people. It's to be able to see that. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, even like Christ's story, like that. It's a similar situation to where he's always purely good.
Yep.
And so when you connect with a character like Christ or Captain America, whatever it may be, you have this ideal and this ideal character, but you'll never be that.
Right.
But you're constantly striving, like doing your best to be like that. And
Sure.
you'll fail, you'll fall short, but at least you have that guiding light, that North Star of like, I connect with this character is the ideal of everything I want to be.
Yeah.
And I hold to be good.
Right.
Will I fail? Because we all have that duality in us. Absolutely. Will I make a selfish decision? Absolutely. But at least I have that guiding light.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And I think that's where like the relevancy of the Bible still comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
Here, like I have a much different view of the Bible than what I did growing up in a fundamental Christian household.
Sure.
But there's something so profoundly important about some of these stories, and Christ's story being one of them. Like, all of us can learn from a story of a man that saw past the sins of everyone. So like looked and searched out for the marginalized, the people that were oppressed, the people that were left aside and kicked aside by humanity or society, and said, you're less than, you're not worthy. And he comes alongside them, picks them up and says, you are worthy, walk with me. Like that is a very noble characteristic.
Absolutely.
And just preaching that message of love and inclusivity and having grace for other people and taking care of people. Those are all lessons that we can learn. And that's the power of story, like,
Absolutely.
They inspire us to be better than who we are.
Yeah. Well, and you see that you see Jesus replicated in a lot of characters in some of these films we were just talking about. You think of like Neo in The Matrix, this savior that's going to come back and sacrifice himself. Usually there's some sort of a sacrifice involved. And I mean, there's so much of it goes back to the biblical story, and and I think people get in the weeds about the Bible sometimes. And I think some of the worst things about Christianity or, any religion, specifically Christianity for the sake of this conversation, it seems like people miss the point that, hey, this is a book about what Jesus did, right? So if you can model your life and just try to be more like Jesus, the other stuff kind of goes away, and I think churches can lose sight of that. People, I mean, Christians in general can lose sight of that. I think, and then going even a little deeper when people, you hear, and I understand, I get it. I get the arguments about the Bible, is written by man, it's not real, like Noah didn't actually this and that. It's like, okay, whether or not the story is exactly true how it's stated in the Bible, what's the lesson there?
Yeah.
I think there's like these deep lessons in the Bible that are so transcendent and really speak to the core of mankind, really. And I think that it's just so powerful. It's really hard to, I don't know whether everything is exactly in there is exactly as it happened the way that it said it happened. I don't know, but I choose to believe that even if it didn't happen that way, this book right here and this guy, Jesus, this is powerful, and I choose to believe in it. I think that's where faith comes in, right? We're never going to have all the answers. At some point, you have to step out and say, well, I'm going to choose to believe this based on looking into it, based on studying it and, thinking it through, which is another thing too. It's, a lot of the time people grow up in, say, a fundamental Christian home and they don't really do that thinking for themselves, right?
Sure.
You're told your whole life, you're brought to church. That's how I was raised, and nothing against my parents for that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm very grateful that I was raised, attending church and in that community, and I love my parents. They're great. But I think that I finally had to figure it out for myself. I think I finally had to really look into it and say, okay, no, this is what I've been told to believe, but should you believe everything you're told? Probably not. It's time for me to look into it. It's my responsibility to look into it.
Right.
If I'm gonna,
that just means your parents raised you right.
Right.
Just as far as like, I hope my kids one day step out on their own and not just take everything I've said for, like as authority. Like,
Right.
I want you to come to your own conclusions, your own truths.
For sure.
Like that's the best thing that we can do for our kids is to teach them how to think.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of our growing up in the church did kind of hinder us a little bit and did do a disservice in the sense that it's like, don't think, just believe what I'm saying.
This is the way it is.
Yeah.
This is it. This is gospel. This is the way it happened.
Right.
Trust me. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for, your own discovery of it. And I think it means something so much more to you when you discover it for yourself.
100%.
These stories take on a life of their own when you're reading them because you want to. You want to understand, not because you're in Sunday school and you have to,
Right. And not being restricted to like, well, this story had to historically happen for me to believe it. Like, you connect with a story that you watch on a movie and it impacts your life. Yep. I mean, I'm sure you've had a movie in your life that has changed the way you view the world and has inspired you to be better.
Yeah, 100%.
That story wasn't true.
Right.
Like, it doesn't
need
actually
to be.
happen, but the truths are still there.
Right.
And I think that's when we look at some of these biblical stories, like, man, they are amazingly complex and rich, and a lot of really profound truths in there that we can separate. Yeah. And having the hang up be, well, it had to be historically accurate. Well, you're missing it. Like, you're missing the beauty of this like text.
Right. I just think if there is a God, right? If God is real, he's so much bigger than that. Our brains are not going to comprehend that either. Like you said, those stories in the Bible are so complex, and that whole Bible, the whole book of the Bible is, I heard Jordan Peter say this, that it's like a technology, the Bible, because everything is hyperlinked to other scriptures in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's all one thing.
Yeah.
And to me, it's an amazing accomplishment for that to even exist, and to exist over this many years,
Well, I mean, most of the writers were Jewish.
Yeah.
And so I was just having a conversation with Troy and my father-in-law, and we were talking about, the story of the lame man, and Jesus comes up to him and he asked him, do you want to be healed?
Right.
Which seems like such a silly question to ask somebody who's a cripple. You're not supposed to say cripple anymore, right? It's sus. Okay. Wasn't able to walk.
Right.
And
I think in the Bible it said crippled.
So, he wasn't able to walk, but they talk about, like, he goes to this pool with 5 pillars. Yeah. And you're just reading that story and you're like, okay, what's the significance? But the Jewish writer knew, like, the number 5 was a very significant number to the Jewish people. So it was going to mean something.
Right.
And he was saying, like, you're bound by these 5 pillars. What does that mean? The 5 pillars, the number 5 means the Torah. And so literally they're telling this story. Jesus is showing the sign of, like, you are bound by the law. And I'm telling you, if you want to be unbound, if you want to be truly free, get rid of that. You know, stop focusing on the law.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times we find ourselves in that same trap of like, well, you know, the law says this, so I have the right to treat a homosexual different because of the choices that they make, because my law says it. And it's like, well, that's a whole other conversation of like misreading a biblical text. But, you know, like above all else, like if our ideal is to be a good human, I think at the very least you treat people with love.
100%. That's Jesus's message.
Right.
Like if you boil it down to one word,
Yeah.
it's love, you know,
Right.
it's love others.
Right.
Really, you know, that's 2 words, but yeah, I mean, I think that the Bible is just so complex, but there's so much wisdom in it, you know, and, but yeah, we get hung up on it. I think if you just simplify and say, hey, Jesus was an amazing person. He was man, he was God, you know, but if you model your life off after anything, it's model your life after Jesus, you know, because he went around loving people. Right. That's what he did.
Yeah. I think one of the really beautiful things about like, yes, I connect with this character. This character is the ideal. I strive to be that. Like that in between of who I am and who I want to be can seem so far. Right. But at least like the pursuit is what I think, at least because we will get in our own way. We will make decisions that we'll fuck up. Like we'll do things like I wasn't the person I wanted to be today. And I have that all the time. Like,
oh man, I'm in that right now. I feel like now more than ever, for some reason, I've just been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think it's because of where I am right now, you know, just in my life. I feel like comfort is the enemy.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, and that goes back to, you know, discipline and discipline being its own form of freedom, you know. There's something to that pursuit, right? Right. And waking up every day and doing the things, not because you want to, but because you know that you're investing in your future self. Right. You know? And, yeah, I feel like I've been in this weird loop where, I haven't been the best I can be, like physically with, you know, my diet and with, you know, working out, exercise, all that stuff. And it's harder now than it has ever been in my life to break out of that. It's so strange. In my 20s, like I was able to discipline, you know, I'd snap my finger and I'd be disciplined. It'd be like, okay, I want to do this. And then I would just do it, you know, and okay, I want to only eat these things. All right. I just do it. You know, I want to gain muscle, just do it, or lose whatever. Like I just be able to do it. And for some reason now it's just so much harder. And I think like for me, you know, it can get dangerous because sometimes the like victim mentality can feed into that almost a little bit. Yeah. And not like I'm a victim, but even
it creeps in.
Yeah, even like I'm a dad, I'm tired. I do so much throughout my day. I work and then I take care of him and then I do the dishes. At the end of the night, I just want to chill out. It's like you're justifying, you know, these things that are going to keep you where you are. Yeah. And you're kind of playing the victim a little bit and saying, well, I deserve it because of this, or, you know, and I think about it a lot these days. And I'm trying to have a paradigm shift so I can get back to that place where I'm just fully disciplined, you know, because I think, and the pendulum swings, man. You know, sometimes in life you're way too disciplined, and sometimes you're not disciplined enough. I'd like to find that balance, you know.
Well, it is a balance, right? So, like even Jordan Peterson talks about the balance of order and chaos. Your life can't be all order, and it can't all be chaos. Right. You have to weave in and out of that. And some days you'll be more chaotic, and some days you'll be more in order. Yeah. But the counter of both is really important. Yeah. But yeah, it's, you know, it's just that. If you have that foundation and that, like, this is a guiding principle of who I want to be, having that guiding principle of, like, I want to at least make myself uncomfortable a couple times a day. Yep. Whether that be a workout, whether that be restricting your eating, going to a sauna session, going for a run.
Reading when you don't want to read.
Reading when you don't want to read.
Yes.
You know? Like, if those things that can put you out of your comfort zone. Like, it's very uncomfortable to sit in a sauna when it's 170 degrees and you're in that last, like, 5-10 minutes of your session. Like, that's a very uncomfortable feeling. But knowing, like, this is good for me. It's good for me because like I can be comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Like, like
it's physically and mentally good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like going for a run and pushing yourself past that point of like, I want to stop running right now and then keeping going. Like those are all really good things. It develops mental fortitude, mental toughness, constantly making yourself uncomfortable. I think there's something to that. You can't always do that, obviously, because your body will fall apart, but at least setting those parameters of like, I want to do this at least a couple times a day. Yeah. I don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I really don't. I want to stay in bed. My wife's there. I'm comfortable. It's nice and cold, but I've got the covers. But it's so ingrained now, like to where it's like, no, you gotta get up. Yeah. It's not an option, right? Like it's like, oh, maybe I'll just sleep in today. Nope, that's not an option. Yeah. It's been so ingrained, right? Yeah. It's just...
Isn't it funny too how ambitious we are at night? I feel like, at least I am. I'm telling you, like every time I lay down, I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. This is gonna be great. I'm waking up early. I'm gonna, like, you just, for some reason you think and you believe it. You're like, yeah, I can do that. All right, it's time.
Yeah, that's a good ass point. Yeah.
And then in the morning, somehow that just goes away. Yeah. And it's because of the comfort, man. Right. It's like you're too comfortable. You're just surrounded by comfortable things, and the last thing you want to do is get up. But it's like, the truth is that waking up in the morning thing and waking up early, or at least waking up when you said you were going to wake up, that's the first victory of the day. Yeah. That's what creates your momentum. So it's like, you can start your day one of two ways. Yeah. You should probably wake up when you at least said you were going to wake up.
Yeah. Do you ever like struggle with, because like we talked a lot about like the ideal, like who I want to be as a man, a father, husband. Do you ever feel like you have like guilt or anxiety of like, I really am not living up to who I want to be?
All the time. I kind of feel like that's part of what drives me is, I'm kind of wired for, I don't know if you know much about the Enneagram. No, my wife got really into it years ago. It's like a personality assessment, but it's rooted from years and years and years ago. It's been around for a very long time, but it's a lot like a disc profile or things like that. We're not so much into it anymore, but I think there was a lot of value that we were able to find through it. So there's 9 types, and each type pretty much sums up a person's kind of their personality based on fear and their childhood fears and kind of what motivates them. So mine, at least in this category, right? Mine I'm a 3, which is achiever. Okay. So for me, my worth is based on what I can do, right? How well I do. Am I successful? Am I a good husband? Am I a good father?
That's got to be a lot of men, right?
I think so. I mean, I think the numbers are pretty evenly split. Like, really? I'm actually not sure about that, but I think a lot of men have that in them because a lot is expected of men, right? A lot is expected for us to be successful and strong and brave and hardworking. All those things. A lot of those things are expected of us. So I think we tend to equate that to us, that what we do is our value. Yeah. But for me specifically, it really feels like that's like on the money for me. Like when I read the descriptions or took the test or whatever, it was like, man, that's me. There's no arguing with that. Right. And really what that means is all of my value is intrinsically tied to what I can do. What I do is who I am. And you could see how that can be unhealthy because it's not really true. I have value as a human despite what I do or don't do, and I think some of this comes back. My wife helped me kind of walk me through this a little bit because I'm not introspective enough to come up with this on my own, but I think she might be right about it, is going back to where we started the conversation about acting and auditioning. At a very young age, my worth, or at least what I perceived my worth to be, was I successful in that audition? Did I get the part? Things like that, because it's a very clear cut. You walk into a room in front of a bunch of strangers, you awkwardly perform in front of them, they say nothing, you walk out, and you either get a call back or you don't. It's like you get that call back, you won. You don't, you lost.
Right. You weren't good enough.
And then tied to that is your parents who are like, attaboy, like, hey, good job, you did it, right? So I think I feed off of that. I think that taught me early on that my actions and what I do, what I can produce is who I am and is where my value is. So I think even just knowing that for me has been powerful, because I know I lean to that. I know that those are my fears that I'm useless, that I have nothing to offer, you know?
Yeah.
And at least just knowing it for me helps, because I can kind of try to push into a more healthy space, you know, because there's two versions of that achiever as well. Like you have the achiever who is willing to just look like they got it all, even if they don't. They don't care. They just want people to think that they're successful, you know? So there's people like that. And then there's people who have to know that they are successful. They have to have their own like true success in whatever it is that they've decided, you know? So I'm not that unhealthy type where, you know, I just want to look successful. To me, that doesn't matter as much. Yeah. To me, it's about me. It's about like you. Like
and that falls apart. You know, how many times do you see these like Instagram influencers like posting pictures on a private jet, you know, posting pictures with Maserati, and it's like, well, you rented that car and that was a photo session with a jet. Like,
but for them, it's like, you know, they could be feeding off of that, even if they know deep down that it's not true, you know. Right. It's just purely based on people's opinions, right? And people's opinions matter to me, but what matters most to me is the people who really know me, you know. So my wife, my family, and now my son, you know, like those are the things that matter to me. And so you ask if I ever feel like I'm failing in some of those places, or what is it that I'm challenged in it. Those are the things. It's feeling like I'm failing as a husband, or feeling like I'm failing as a father. And that, it's a spectrum. Every day is different, you know. Some days I feel like I did a better job than others. Some days I didn't. But as you know, marriage is tough, and it requires constant maintenance. And you can't half-ass a marriage. Yeah, it just doesn't work. It's not just going to be easy and going to work out for you if you don't put the attention that you need to into it, you know. So for me, that's really important to me. And where things get tough for me, to be honest, is you got all that, right? You get the family, and you know, your wife, your son, the family. That stuff is key. It's important. It's the most important. You're also trying to run a business. Right. You're also trying to, you know, pursue these goals that take up a lot of your time, you know. We're still kind of in startup phase, honestly. I mean, we've only been, you know, around a couple of years. So you have to give a lot of attention to that as well. There's not enough time in the day, you know. So each day there's some sort of you have to lean into one or the other. Right. So you feel like you're always failing. You're always failing something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never related to something more in my life. You know, it's being a dad, being a husband, and then trying to balance that with running a business and everything else that comes into play.
It literally seems like an impossible feat.
It is. Like but as long as you're intentional about keeping both plates spinning, you can't lean all the way to one, because you need to provide for your family, but you also can't completely neglect your family. So it's like this balancing act, you know, and some days you get the balance right. Sometimes you lean more on one side than the other. It's like, you know, I'm going to leave my business for 3 days and go to Disney with my family, you know, and there may be things that, like, there may be plates that get dropped. There may be deadlines get missed, but at least I'm going to prioritize them in these next 3 days. And vice versa. Sometimes a shoot runs late, but you had to get it done. Yeah. You got to get it done. So I won't be able to tuck you in tonight, kid, but I'm sorry, but I'll be there. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, as long as you're trying your best, you know, that's all we can do. I mean, we're only human.
It's that pursuit, right? Yeah. I mean, that's really it. And,
but I think that's why I think it's really important to set the ideal, like I want to be this man. Yep. Like I want my company to do this, but I want to be this person. And that's what's most important to me. Right. You know, I want to be hardworking. I want to be disciplined. I want to be industrious, but I also want to be loving. I want to be gracious. I want to accept people. I want to be a good dad. I want to be patient, which, God, kids will test your patience sometimes. So
business will too.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I was going to ask you this, because now that you guys, I mean, we started our businesses pretty similar. Like I think I started about a year before you guys did.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was 2019. You guys were 2020. Yeah. I know I've even just as of recently experienced these like milestones that I've set out to like different goals that I'm like, you know, thinking about like 2 years ago, like, man, that's going to be amazing. One day I'll do this. And then like, once you reach them, it doesn't feel the same.
Never does, right?
It's almost just doesn't feel real.
Yep.
Do you feel that like within your business, like you guys set out to do certain things, certain projects, and once you've done them,
100%.
okay,
you can't like. I feel like it never feels like what you think it's gonna feel like.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It never. You build it up in your head, you know, and also because these things are, you know, it's a slow thing. I mean, you chip away at these goals, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just like one thing you did that got you there. It's you worked your ass off to get there, you know, and every day you made decisions towards that thing, and
Right.
you visualized it, and once you arrive there, it's like you took a slow, you know, boat there. You didn't take a bullet train. Like you worked to it, you know, and
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe because it's like such a slow progression over time.
yeah, and because you know behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you're never going to quite buy that you're this like successful person. I think that that's just unattainable. I think setting goals is great. We need to do it. You need to be able to, you need to visualize.
Yeah, you
and
need a target.
You have to have
Yeah.
a target or
Yeah,
else
yeah.
you're aimless, right?
Right.
But once you hit that target, you're going to have another target,
Right.
you know, and it might not be business. It might be something else in life or starting another business or, you know, whatever it is. I feel like we always, at least I know myself, I have to have a big goal always. So if we hit those mile markers along the way, you need to enjoy them and you need to talk about them. And I think Morgan and I we're kind of piss poor at that, honestly. There's a lot of things that when we sat down day one that we visualized that have happened,
Right.
you know, and we just breeze through it and we're on to the next thing.
You don't even
know?
like sit on the
No, we don't. And you know, once in a while, one of us will look at the other person and say, "That's pretty cool. We did that." You know, like, but that's about it. You know, we're not like going out and having champagne or anything like that.
Yeah,
to
but you also
celebrate.
have like friends like me or Chase that are just like, dude, I can't believe you guys did that, and they're like,
But
Oh,
see,
yeah,
and even
yeah,
that, and
yeah.
even then, that's appreciated. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and honestly, you need people around you like that.
Yeah.
You know. But even that, like, we know what it took to make it, so it's less special to us.
yeah,
You know what's in the secret sauce,
Right.
And, you know,
and you know how many times you failed on your way
Yeah.
up there, so you're just like, you know,
See-
I ran a marathon, but I tripped and fell 16,000 times through that marathon, but everybody only saw me cross the finish line. They don't know that I cramped up, I tripped and fell,
Yeah.
and ended up in the mud, you know,
Yeah.
like all these different things.
yeah, and also, you know, I think. I mean, I know myself. I have a healthy dose of imposter syndrome. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like, who am I to do this?
Yeah.
You know,
We all have that, man.
We all do, I think,
Yeah.
you know, and especially when you're getting into something new, you know, like filmmaking for me is pretty new, you know, like I just kind of started doing it because I was like, I love it. I want to do that. I'm going to do it. And when I set my mind on something, I do it, but it doesn't mean that I have like tenure as a filmmaker. Like I've just started kind of doing it, you know,
Yeah.
a few years ago or whatever. So to me, it's like, okay, now we're doing commercial projects and now we're doing documentaries. And it's like, who am I to do this stuff? Like, I don't know how to direct, you know, but
Well, and
you
it's
figure
like
it out,
the
you know?
competition's so fierce. I mean,
Oh,
think
man.
about like how many of these like, I mean, you call yourself a filmmaker and you are, but like so does James Cameron. You know?
Yeah,
like
it's a high bar, man.
some of the Duffer Brothers, like these guys that are just like you just idolize, you look up to, and they're making these. Sometimes $1 billion movie.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and it's like I got to put myself in, and I get that with clothing. Like, you know, I have these like, I almost feel weird calling myself a clothing designer because like, well, I'm not a John Elliott,
Right.
You know,
yeah.
like I don't want to be put in that same category. I'm not deserving of being in
Right.
that category. So I think we all like, and obviously social media and our awareness of things like kind of exacerbate like the imposter syndrome, I think, a little bit more.
sure,
You know,
yeah.
if we didn't have social media and you didn't know about all these like different crazy filmmakers and all that kind of stuff, you would be bound by the community around you.
Exactly.
And 100% you guys are the best filmmakers in Sarasota, Tampa area. Like that's without a doubt.
Well, I appreciate
But
that,
that would, you'd be the king of that hill.
Yeah. And
But now you're just like competing with
well, because
everybody.
exactly.
Yeah.
We're never going to feel like that,
Yeah.
you know, because, and I think that's a good thing to keep in mind too. If for anyone who wants to get into filmmaking, I think look high. Set your sights on the best of the best,
Yeah.
right? And those would be your James Camerons and these directors that are doing it at a very high level, you know, and you choose your genre of director that you like,
Right.
you know, or your DP or whatever it is that you do, but shoot high. Look at those people and look what they're doing.
Right.
Because what they're doing is, the practices that they're using, these filmmaking principles are timeless, right? And especially these days with promo and videographers and things like that, a lot of the stuff is just trends, right? It's trends. Like literally, someone will put out a video in a certain style and use certain transitions and stuff that next year you're going to look at that and cringe, right? It's all very like now.
Right.
We've always kind of leaned more into what is timeless, right? What are the timeless aesthetics? And by the way, if you want to find out how to do that, you look at the best,
Yeah.
And Morgan and I are both like this. He probably even more than I am, but I'm telling you, like, once we make the choice of doing something, that's what we're doing. And we're going to study and we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out any resource that we need to make that happen. I mean, Morgan is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life.
100%.
But with that, he's also probably the hardest worker I've ever met in my life,
100%.
aside from like my dad, And those two things are a recipe for success for him.
100%.
Whether he thinks he's successful or not, it doesn't matter. Whether
Yeah.
I think I am, it doesn't matter. That is a recipe for success. But since day one, when we both kind of figured out our roles in the company, or even just in productions, right? Because there's a lot of different things that you need to do in a production. Are you going to direct? Are you going to DP? Those things. We kind of just naturally fell into our roles, but they were roles that we didn't know anything about,
Right.
We were kind of just like videographers who were kind of doing it all, but doing it all at a kind of a low level, And then when we decided to like, okay, we're going to double down on this thing, we had to figure out these crafts, right? And the truth is, as a DP, a cinematographer, or a director, you can study your whole life and you will never get there in terms of knowing everything there is to know.
Sure.
It goes so deep, you know? So I think we've always had a respect for the crafts like that. Like we look at it and we know like that's a mountain you'll never finish climbing, but you got to start. You got to,
Yeah.
So I think that's also been something that, like imposter syndrome can be a good thing. It can humble you. It keeps you a little, humble when you're looking at the greats and saying, well, that's where I want to go, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And you know that you're not there yet. And I think you should always know that you're not there yet, but be willing to continue working towards it, and that's just it. That's how you get better at anything, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Simon Sinek has this great line. There's two ways to view life. And he uses the mountain as an analogy. He's like, you can either look at the mountain or you can look at the peak.
Right.
And some people look at the mountain and are debilitated. They're like, I can't. There's no way. But some people look at the peak and say, that's where I want to be.
Yep.
The mountain's just in my way.
Right.
Yeah. So no matter what, I'm not going to focus on the mountain. I'm going to focus on the peak.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way of looking at life. If you can get yourself to where it's like, yes, this is a massive hill, mountain, whatever it may be, massive challenge to undertake. But if you can focus on the end result, if you can focus on the end goal, obviously you need to have that target.
Yeah.
The mountain's just in the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just got to get through that.
That's right.
Enjoy the journey while it's going. It's like same thing with fatherhood, same thing with starting a business. Like my mentor still tells me to this day, he's like, enjoy this process. The startup process is as damning and frustrating and hell-like as it can be. This is the fun part because you're trying to figure out this complex problem of making a business work.
Absolutely.
He's like, because you're going to look back on these years and be like, you're going to look back at 1836 when it was just you and Morgan and just trying to figure it out. You working in your office, like, what can we do? Like, how can we do this? And then once it's this big company, this big film company that you have 100 employees or whatever it may be, you're just like, man, I kind of miss the days where it's just Morgan and I sitting in the office trying to figure this whole thing out.
The good old days.
The good old days. There's something to be said about that. Like those early days of trying to make this thing work.
It's a lot like parenting.
Yeah, 100%. I already look back at like pictures of my girls at 3 and 4, and when I was in it, I'm like, man, these kids, they can be a lot sometimes. They're crying for no reason. I can't tell what they're crying about. Like, I don't. But I miss those days, man.
Man, there's a phrase I find myself telling myself this all the time, and I wish I could go back and tell, 19, 20-year-old me, the phrase, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
It's true for the good and for the bad, right? So when you're going through something bad, going through something tough, it really feels like it's never going to end, right? Like that's it. Life's got it out for you. You're never going to get through this thing. And on the flip side, when things are good, you kind of feel like they're never going to end, or you don't appreciate them when they're there, right? So I think like for something for me, and I try to tell this to myself often, is this too shall pass, good and bad, right? If you're in the bad, it's hope, right? If you're in the bad, it's hope. If you're in the good, hey, take some mental pictures here, because this is going to pass, and you're going to think back nostalgically about this one day.
That's how I feel about my life a lot. Like right now, I'm just like, man, I know I'm in my golden years. I know I'm in my good times. There's that great line from The Office. Andy from The Office says that I think it was the last episode. He says, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of, why can't you know you're in the good old days when you're in them? I'm just like, wow,
so true, man.
What a simple but great line. You know, it's just like, just absorb it, you know, take it in. There's a lot of, like, no matter what you're going through in life, you know, it may be difficult, but there are a lot of good things that are happening in life too. And just that stop sign in your mind of just knowing, like, I got to remember this. I got to appreciate this. This is a good thing. You know, that's really important. But I know we got to end soon. As a filmmaker, I respect your opinion on film quite a bit.
Okay.
I want to know, like, give me your like top 3 to 5 favorite films, whether they're a movie or a series or whatever. What would make that top 5 list? Because I wonder if I've seen them all.
It's a tough one. I'll give you a few. I mean, I think, you know, There'll Be Blood.
What a great movie! Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I think that's
what sticks out to you.
Performance.
Okay,
you know, obviously PTA is a master director. But I think, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis, I think it's his best performance. It's the best performance from the best actor, in my opinion, that we've seen, you know, at least in our generation.
Even more so than Gangs of New York.
Yeah, Gangs of New York is great, and he's what's great about it.
The Butcher.
Bill the Butcher is what's great about it. Anything that Daniel Day-Lewis is in, sign me up, man.
So talented.
Yeah, he really embodies those characters, and I feel like...
and he's a quality over quantity guy. He's not in a lot of films, but man, when he gets into a role, I mean, we don't know if he's going to do any more. You know, he kind of always quits between films and goes and, you know, becomes a shoe cobbler or whatever he's doing now. But he's definitely quality over quantity. Which, so, you know, you could say the same for Paul Thomas Anderson, who directed that film. You know, these guys, and again, this is just stylistically, right? There's so many great films. This is subjective.
It's totally subjective.
Yeah.
But for me, that one speaks to me in terms of performance, and I just think it's one of those films that's going to go down in history as just being a timeless classic.
It's so good.
Know?
It's so good.
Dude, I remember seeing that film in the movie theaters with my brothers and my dad, and I remember walking out of there feeling a lot of things. That's a strange movie, but I just felt like this is an instant classic. I feel like I just watched a classic film that has been around forever and has been in the zeitgeist forever. So there's films like that have that quality, you know? And I think it just comes down to great writing, great performance, and obviously great direction as well. But that's one of my favorites. There's another film called Beautiful with an I. It's B-I-U-T, by Alejandro Inarritu, who directed The Revenant.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that name sounds familiar.
Okay. He directed Revenant and Birdman, if you saw that one. That film is one that I'll watch again every year for different reasons, though. It's a very hard film to get through. And for me...
I'm going to pass then.
Yeah, and it's definitely... like,
is it just sad? Is that what it is?
Very sad, very bleak, very dark. Performances are amazing. It's Javier Bardem is the lead in it. He's just an amazing actor. But the reason I watch that film every year, and it's a bit of an obscure film, but the reason I watch it every year is I have a hard time getting introspective about how I feel. And it goes back to what we were talking about empathy, right? Films draw empathy out of you, and I feel like that one, for some reason, puts me in a place that I need to be in at least once a year. I need to feel certain emotions at least once a year, and those are the ones. That's the film that brings it out of me.
Okay.
So yeah, you know, and especially now, I haven't watched it yet since I've had my son, but the whole film is about a father he has children and he's dying. So,
oh Jesus,
So whether I'm going to watch that one every year, I don't know now, but
it becomes it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you know, a couple more. So another one that I love is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I think it's a brilliant film.
Who's in that? Is that Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Kate Winslet.
I think I saw that in theaters, like when it first came out.
It probably came out like early 2000s, right? The early aughts. Yeah. That one's one I go back to often. Love that film.
What is it about that film that you love?
The writing of that film.
Okay.
I think it was Charlie Kaufman wrote that. That's just as someone who's just got into writing, screenplays specifically, to write something like that to me is that mountaintop.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, it's like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
You know? And obviously just the atmosphere, I think, of that film too, speaks to me. I think the score is beautiful, and there's a lot of things other than just the writing, but the writing I think sticks out to me in that one. And then I'd say that's tough, man. Probably another Paul Thomas Anderson film, The Master.
The Master. I've not seen that one.
That's a great one. Joaquin Phoenix.
I like him.
That's another great one.
His performance in The Joker was just unbelievable.
He's a freak of nature. Yeah. I think. I mean, I think really what he's doing is he's tapping into this very deep humanity that's there, and and probably some pain and some things that he's dealing with, that he's able to tap into that in a way that's pretty incredible. You know.
When you see him, like, you know, I know that he's considered a method actor, correct? Mm-hmm. And so, like, you see these in-between cuts of him, and he's just like, he doesn't break character.
Right.
You know, he's very much embodies the character that he's in. And when he plays a movie that he's playing a psychopath clown, it's kind of a scary and dark place to be. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these actors, you know, I think even in the film Beautiful that I was talking about, the actor that played the lead in that, he, you know, I saw some interviews of him that he went there for that character. He was that character, and he was it for, I think it was like a year and a half. So he's living in that mind state for that long as this person who is dealing with these really deep problems. The issue of mortality and what legacy are you going to leave for your children when you're gone? You know, these are some pretty deep things, and these actors have to kind of live it. You know, not that they all do that, but a lot of them do. You know, Daniel Day-Lewis is one of them as well. He's a method actor, stays in character pretty much for all of production, and it's a tough job, man. I think acting in general is a very, very tough job. Yeah. If you look at a set, you have, you know, you could look at it like you have a bunch of, you know, crew members that are like journeymen and contractors, these people that work with their hands, and they have a trade, you know, tradespeople. And then you have this actor who is supposed to just turn on these emotions in front of a group of strangers. It's the most vulnerable thing ever, you know? Stanley Kubrick says that filmmaking is like writing a poem while you're on a roller coaster. You know, it's like, and I think it's so true. It's like, you're supposed to tap into these emotions when all this is going on. Yeah. Like, it's insane, you know? Well, I mean, you see actors blow up all the time too, you know, like there was that one infamous, oh God, what's his name? His Terminator, he played Batman, Christian Bale. When he was when he was on the set of Terminator, you know, he was yelling at the DP, like, you're fixing a light in the middle of my scene. Like, it's gotta be, I can't even begin to imagine like how difficult that job has. Yeah, and the way he handled it probably wasn't the way to handle it. 100%. But you think about, like, I get it, you know. Like, you think about how you react under pressure too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't give you the right to treat somebody. Never. You know, you can't be an asshole, but you understand, at least if you can sympathize and put yourself in their shoes, like the amount of pressure that you are, your performance, your role, your acting is what's going to make this film a success or a total and complete failure. It's so much pressure. And that's millions and millions of dollars, jobs. I mean, like your job, but everybody else's job. Like there's a lot of pressure that has to be had by those actors. And that may be why some of those method actors exist. They just have to separate. Like, I'm not Christian Bale. You know, I am Bruce Wayne, and I just lost my family, and I'm playing a mass vigilante, you know, at night. And because it's really hard to turn that on. Sure. If it's been off. You know, you kind of got to stay in it. Acting is not something that I envy. You know, I think that I have a lot of respect for actors who can do it. Yeah. Because it's tough. Yeah. You know, 100%. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a really, really great conversation. Dude, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it's been great. Thanks.